Hello, folkses. Welcome to another White Raven Wisdom Share. It just so happens to be Wednesday, so this is perfect timing as far as when. Sorry, I just got wrapped up in a spider web. Perfect timing for this video to come out. I was thinking about this topic yesterday a great deal, but it's been forming, and now it's kind of formed a bit of an avalanche. It started off with an intriguing thought, and now it's just, I'm seeing how it has manifested in my life in such positive ways. And so I don't know if you've heard the expression before of, it's all in the power of our perspectives. And this couldn't be more true, especially now when it's so very important for us to raise our frequency and our vibration, to be aware of what vibration and what frequency we're sending out, and to also know that what we're sending out is what we will get back. And this is individually, but also as a collective, as a whole around the world. And we find ourselves right now in, as far as in the regular life, globally, we find ourselves in quite a bit of chaotic energy. There are wars cropping up everywhere. There's threats of war that creates a great deal of fear. There are natural disasters that are creating fear, as well as sorrow, loss, grieving. And this also brings up then fear of the unknown, because weather is a very uncontrollable and has been really rather unpredictable force. I mean, I think that time has shown us how when humans try to meddle with Mother Nature doesn't really like that very much and tends to retaliate. That is not to say that these natural disasters are retaliation in any way. This is the breaking down of the old earth as the new earth is born, and a new way of living is born, and it's opening up so many opportunities, granted many of them forced, so it's a vicissitude, which is a forced change, very much like COVID was a forced change in many ways. You know, we then had to embrace what we then labeled as a new normal. Well, every day there's a new normal, and things are changing rapidly now. In Texas, we had the floods. Here in the United States, there's flooding also in the Carolinas from storm systems. There's wildfires. There are, I believe, tsunamis, volcanoes. There's all kinds of stirrings from Mother Gaia. And this is just her way of shedding. But, you know, there are repercussions then for us humans that need to evolve. And so that is one perspective. Certainly, you know, take that as it resonates. Some of you that are sitting in the muck and the deep soup of the chaos in real time may not share that same perspective, and I completely honor that, 100%, or even if you just know somebody who is. So here's where shifting perspective can really help to get through, and also to raise the vibration of the collective, and also in your individual lives. Sorry, there's mosquitoes flying everywhere now. Is once again, as I've mentioned in other videos, of walking the beauty path, of seeing the silver lining, of finding the joy, of transmuting these times into something that is much more positive and beneficial for the greatest good of all. And this is not to say to take a Pollyanna or to bypass anything that you're feeling. First and foremost, we are humans and we are here to have a human experience. And part of the beautiful thing about being human is that we feel emotions and that we are compassionate and sympathetic and empathetic beings. And so first, we do need to honor these emotions and the grieving process, and not so much the fears, but to identify the fears. It is through our emotions that we can actually get to the root of how we can transmute, how we can, so like if you're feeling fearful, identify what it is that's creating this fear in your life. Obviously, if you're fearful, you've just gone through a natural disaster and you're fearful of another one, that's a pretty obvious fear. You could still go a little deeper as to, because there might be some people in your environment that don't have that, share that same fear, but they've still gone through the same thing that you've gone through. And so perhaps maybe this hits you a little bit harder, a little bit deeper. And there's a bit more medicine and body wisdom for you to dive into. And you could just do a meditative practice and go deep down your chakra system into the first 3 chakras. Your stability chakra is your red chakra, your root. So if natural disasters, more than likely there's a fear lodged down there. Anyway, we are not going to dive too much into that. We're focusing more on how to shift the perspective. So, and this is not to say that if you have lost a child, which is unimaginable grief, and so I'm not making light of your loss in any way, but we'll focus a little bit more on those that are around you that did not actually lose the child themselves, but are part of maybe the community or part of the same country, like those of us in the United States or those in other countries where there has been loss. Is for us to rally, and not with arms and not with, force and strength and, that type of thing. That's a bit more masculine, but a bit more into our femininity of our being able to take these tough times and say, okay, so now what? And so how can we now take what's happened, and here is what's left. You lay out now all the pieces. It's kind of like a shamanic practice called dismemberment, where you take all the pieces of you that are now scattered all over the place, and you begin to put them back together again in a way that now might be a bit more harmonious. Things are changing so rapidly in our world. Now we have AI, and now we have, these crazy events happening. And maybe now, this is when inventions come to light. This is when divine inspiration comes. And this is when communities form and people come together. It's been shown all through time that anytime there's some sort of tragic event, we come together. And this is a very human thing. I'm not necessarily anti-AI, and I don't want to get into that topic or get anyone's feathers ruffled, but I do embrace our humanity. I do embrace all of the beauty that is being a human. And we have the ability to use our hearts, kind of like our brain, where we can, out of these difficult times, bring so much beauty into this world. And that's the key. That's what we need to be focused and have our attention on. Where attention goes, energy flows. And so things will be rebuilt. They always are rebuilt. I'll be traveling next month to Asheville, North Carolina, and researching art opportunities. Well, last year they experienced great devastation, great flooding that wiped out the whole, what's called the RAD district, the River Arts District. And any buildings or structures that were lower lying were pretty much demolished and wiped out. And anything higher, of course, they're fine. They're able to recover, from what I understand. And the other artists have relocated and have found brand new studios to operate out of. Things are now beginning to pick back up again. And so it's possible that they needed to have this shift, that this artist's energies needed to be seeded out a little bit more around Asheville. And who knows what prosperity or opportunities can come from this. I did a video in the past speaking about making different choices so that you can open up new doors of opportunity, new ways of meeting people or experiencing new things. This is what happens when we have this sudden change. It's thrust upon us and it's unexpected. And so another thing with perspective, so you can do this not necessarily just in the trauma and everything, but you can also do this in other ways in your life. And so, for instance, I've recently relocated in my living situation, and it happens to be in a place that I have already lived with some people that I have already lived with. And at first I wasn't necessarily so thrilled, and this was because I was feeling as though it was a regression, that I was regressing, that I was going back to this place, that things were going to be the same as it was when I lived there before. It's the same people, so why wouldn't it be any different? Well, I shifted my perspective and I said, no, I'm a new version of me. I've now grown exponentially in the past 6 months, and I have new tools. I have new abilities. I am now more centered. And, maybe those people have changed also, but I know that I can be the change. And so, and also, again, what frequency you're putting out is what you're going to get back. If I was going in there with this doom and feeling less than and feeling like I was going back and regressing, well, that's what I was going to be met with. And I knew this. And so I went into the situation as if it was new, and I met it with new eyes. And I greeted it as if I was moving in with some strangers, just adults living together. And I also had to release the perspective on abundance, that abundance is not always financial energy. Abundance comes to you in many ways, and all the ways that we think that we require money are not necessarily so. We don't necessarily require money. Things can have a different way of appearing. Like you might say, I need money to buy food. Well, no, you don't. Not necessarily. So off on a different tangent, I was working my part-time job as a cashier at a grocery store, and the gentleman that I was bagging his groceries and ringing him up, he then asked for a gift card. He wanted to purchase a gift card. He wanted to put $50 on it. And so I was ringing him up, and I added the $50 gift card. At the end of it, he smiled at me. He handed me the gift card. He says, "This is for you." Well, $50 gift card, that's enough for me to have groceries probably for a couple of weeks now that I'm eating a little bit less and doing these fasting regimens. And, you know, I now no longer have to spend my financial energy on food, which is a vital resource, it's a vital resource. It's something that we need to survive. Food, water, shelter, companionship. And so that frees up my financial energy so that I can put that energy into someplace else, like travel expenses to Asheville, or towards a debt that I owe, or who knows where that money needs to go. Maybe somebody else is in need, I can pay it forward. But you see, if we change the perspective of I need money for food, that's an invention, that's a story, that's a lie. You keep yourself open, and food can just come to you in a variety of ways. This has also happened also at work, where they're having cookouts for the employees. And so I get to eat until I'm fat and full, if I so choose, at least one day out of the month. And then they also have a variety of snacks every single day. So my food needs are pretty much taken care of, where I don't have to pay for food. And so you release that perspective on money. And so getting back to the living arrangement, where I now don't necessarily need to pay my way financially, I pay my way with other energy, as in helping around the house. The homeowners are not able to do all the things that they used to be able to do, and I am pretty fit, and so I can offer that to them. I also offer my healing energy and my light in the home. I also do pet Reiki on their animal, and there are many, many ways that I now offer an even exchange of energy. And in shifting this perspective, I also free myself from that lack and that less than, and feeling as though I'm not willing to be supported and helped by someone. And so I now fully accept help from others, and it's such a relief. It really is. And that's been a total game changer for me, because I am able to live a bit more in my joy. I am able to be here in the forest in the morning time when nobody else is here and record these videos for you, which is giving to the world. It's for this greatest good of all, whether, take it as it resonates. And so we do have the power to change our perspectives. Many of our perspectives come from past experiences, and of course our emotions as well. But the emotions are linked to memories, whether in this lifetime or in previous lifetimes. Again, take that as it resonates. Or also as collective energies, collective emotions, that if we're very sensitive, we might be feeling that. And that is not our energy necessarily to hold. It is definitely for us to transmute that. And so when you're faced with a grumpy person, just changing your perspective of that, the reason that person is grumpy probably, actually more than likely, has nothing to do with you. And it's not at all their feelings for you. They don't even know you. And they're just responding to whatever has moved through their day. And so in understanding that, you can shift your perspective. You can take a breath and take a pause when you feel as though they might be coming at you. And you can understand, hey, they're not seeming to be in a good place right now. How can I help this person? And all you really have to do is smile. You can just not get caught up in their wave of emotion. You can block that and say, this is not for me, this is not mine. And in that moment, you transmute it. I've had numerous people come through my line at the grocery store in a rather grumpy mood because of the things that are going on in the world and in our country. And simply greeting them from a polarized place of happiness, of joy, of compassion and understanding of, hey, I'm not the one that's bringing that upon you. In this present moment, I choose to smile upon you and to shed light upon you and bless you in this moment, to give you just a moment of peace. Of, okay, do you feel you need to vent and express how you feel about your situation? Okay, you go ahead. I am not going to chime in. I understand that misery loves company, but I'm going to provide you with some joy, a moment of joy, a moment of bliss. Ooh, sorry, spider webs. And yeah, and then they end up leaving feeling a little bit lighter. They might still have that grumbling thunderstorm looming in the back, but they leave like, oh, okay, I now see that I have an umbrella, that I don't necessarily have to hang on to that. And so circling back around to, we watch the news, which we really shouldn't. Just keep a finger pulse, like a pulse, finger on the pulse of what's happening in the world, but to be, in the world, but not of the world, so to speak. To know what's going on, but to not be so immersed in it. To try to not be so consumed by the fear and the anguish of what's going on. As empaths, you might say, well, how do I do that, Yuli? How do I not feel this? Well, we put up a protective shield. We ask for our guidance, and we ask for whoever your support is, whether that be angels or cosmic beings or God, source, light, whatever you believe in, to wrap you in this cocoon of light, and for you to also bring your awareness to, I'm going to observe this, I'm not going to absorb this. This is not for me to feel this. It's for me to, understand how this feels, to know how this feels, so that I can be compassionate towards those who are truly enmeshed in it, because they have a one-on-one, they're like in the experience for whatever reason they're meant to be in that experience. But we need to be the supporters. We need to be those who can uplift, those that, because if all of us get down in the dumps, if all of us get wrapped up in the fear, that overall frequency of everything is going to sink. And those of us, like myself, who are radiating this joy, saving the world one smile at a time, it matters. But if those of us that are not on that sinking ship, if we can just focus on lifting that ship up and of just living in our moment, like right now in this moment, I'm here in this forest. I hear these crazy cool bugs. There's a slight breeze. The sun is shining through the trees. There's nobody else here. It's a safe place. It's not like in the mountains or anything. It's a public park, so I'm fine. I know that I'm safe. I know that I'm protected. The craziest thing that could possibly happen would be if a snake, appears, but that's fine too. I am in this wonderful place. It's easy now for me to raise my frequency to joy and to happiness and to be at peace. And if there are those of you who are not enmeshed personally and directly in these experiences of the war and the chaos and the violence, if you could be that flower of life, flower of light that can just shine, there will be many others that do the same. And as we shine our light of peace and joy, it will be as if we were like dandelion seeds floating across the world, the globe. And more of us will detach from that fear, and we will detach from that anguish and that sorrow and that worry. And the frequency of the world will begin to lift at great speeds and exponentially, because we will be connecting together in a web of uplifted light, like a net that can help to uplift those in times of sorrow that are enmeshed in the war, or they are enmeshed in the floods and the loss of children and loved ones and pets, and the loss of nature, which nature always rebounds. Nature knows how to thrive, not just survive. And so this is pretty much my message for you is, there's always, when a door closes, one always opens. And there's just many times that we are so attached to the suffering of others. We're carrying other people's stuff. And we think that that is an honorable thing to do, that we are honoring those people. But it would be so much more beneficial to them and to all if we could just put it down. Just put it down. It's not for us to carry. It's for us to shine. It's for us to find the peace, to find the joy, to uplift ourselves, to help uplift those who are finding it difficult to be uplifted, and to not allow it to drag us down. Because if we get dragged down, then we are calling in more of the fear. We're calling in more of the chaos. We're calling in more of the sorrow. That's not what we want. We want more of the joy. We want more of the love. We want more of the community. We want more bliss. We want more ease and flow and grace. And that is what we need to radiate. So radiate, beautiful souls, radiate and uplift. Stay uplifted. Be blessed. I'm sending you all so much love. Gratitude for you being here with me on my journey. If you have enjoyed these messages, found any entertainment in them, or found value, please do remember to hit that little thumb button here in YouTube, or also if you happen to see it on Facebook or other social media. All the thumbs, all the hearts, all prove to be beneficial. All send that frequency of love and gratitude that I most definitely have in my heart for you, for tuning in and for joining me and walking with me. Look, see? We're shining our light. All right, lovely ones. Peace.